Fusion. And so this is really a sort of an area that I absolutely love. And I've been helping leaders, business owners, individuals for many years in their writing skills and how to really tap into, you know, the way that we want to be reading content. And you know, how many of you love to read pages and pages of content? You know, we read a book, and if it's like a nonfiction or something, or a fiction novel, it might be really, you know, really interesting. And today isn't about making it fun or exciting, but you know, if we can add some interest and keep your reader focused and engaged, that's really the key. So that's sort of just a brief introduction. So today is really that sort of high-level introduction to enhancing our business writing skills. Keeping your reader engaged is really at the forefront. And especially today, like I said, if you really want them to connect with you emotionally from a business standpoint, we need to be drawing them in and able to, oh, sorry, just got something on my screen there. All right, so no matter what brought you here today, whether you're a business owner, whether you're someone who works in an admin type position within your organization, your company, I think there's something for everybody here today. So if there's, again, any questions, please let me know. If there's something you want particularly answered or a specific tool or technique, we will do our best to cover that off. I think we will cover quite a bit throughout. So so stay tuned, but if you do have any specific questions, please let us know. So just a quick introduction. Penny and I we've just actually passed our 2 years with our business Cheetah Fusion Creative. But before that, both of us had our own businesses, and we've sort of brought them under the umbrella. Penny is a graphic designer and brilliant in the marketing and advertising sort of area of business, and my background is more in the business development, coaching and training side of things. And so we have a web developer. We are all working remotely right now, but we come together as a team probably at least once a week, if not more, over Zoom or over the phone to discuss our projects. And what I love about our team is we're so dynamic. We don't have a lot of overlapping skills, and that's what makes it so cool. That we've come together, and that's the fusion part of Cheetah Fusion. The cheetah part is just because we love cheetahs and animals, so that's sort of that, and we catapult your brand fast. So that's sort of just a brief introduction. Some of you may know us. If you want to learn more about us, our bios and sort of more of our background is on our website. I want to keep this focused on you today and your learning component. So that is Penny and I, and we are the founders, co-founders of Cheetah Fusion. Enough said. All right, so where are we going today? So what we're going to explore today is around engaging and keeping your reader focused. Again, it should be really focused on your reader, whatever you're sharing or offering in your, whether it's a social media post, a blog post, an article that you're sharing, even a webinar. So a lot of these principles you can actually apply to everything from emails to newsletters to blog posts. And that's really the key today, is that a lot of the principles, it's not rocket science, but these principles can be applied in so many areas where you are writing or any written text or communication to your clients or to your audience. So we're going to talk about some tricks to some great flow of your content, to really, like I said earlier, connect emotionally and in a business sense to your client and attract them if you're someone that they want to work with. And that's why being authentic in your writing, so whether it's a blog post or a social media, write in your own style. And even when we work with clients from a social media aspect, we really try and put their voice in their social media posts. If we're ghostwriting blog posts or newsletters for a client, we really try and we actually do a sort of an interview or a strategy session with them, and we try and really implement their voice and incorporate their voice into their content, because that's going to show up your voice as authentically as possible, so that when your message is going out to your audience, to whether it's social media, your newsletter, whoever it is that's reading it, they're going to hear your voice, they're going to connect with you authentically, and you're going to connect with them authentically. So that's really part of that whole connection with your audience. And then we're going to talk about some of the structure and formatting and kind of drill it down. I'm not going to get into spell check and all that. You guys know that stuff. What I want to talk about and focus in on today, Penny and I are going to talk about some of the different areas that you'll be focused in on: social media, newsletters, emails, your blog posts, and talk about structure and how to keep your reader really engaged. And then we'll wrap up, like I said, with a Q&A and any comments or anything that you want at the end. So what I'd like to start with is really around the structure and the layout of your content. And then we'll go into some examples and show you some examples. So really, we want to have a strong opening statement to really engage your reader. We all work best when we have a structure and a process, don't we? We need structure, we need processes, we need procedures. So much like our businesses, our organizations that we might work for or work within, we need to have process. And writing is not much different. We need to have a flow, we need to have a process so that, and people will get to attach and learn your writing style, and they'll get to know how to engage with you, how to read your content. And that's really, really, really cool when it happens, and it's really critical, actually. So, one of the things that we'll talk about initially is, having a great subject line, whether it's in an email or a blog or a social media post, having something that grabs your reader's attention. Why would they continue to read? 99% of people will read a subject line or a title, and then they'll decide from there whether they continue to read your email. Is it urgent? Is it something I can park for a week, right? Because we get so inundated with content and information and emails and newsletters. So grab their attention with a great, strong subject line. So we'll talk about that in a few moments. Then the third point here is around being creative with slogans or taglines. And I'm not talking about your tagline for your business. So, having a great tagline is very key. And that's why business owners come up with a brand or a name, and then they have a tagline that actually explains what they do. Your business name does not need to explain what you do. If you have a great tagline, that's going to tell the story. So much like that, in your writing, in your blog posts, in your social media posts, particularly in blogs and emails, having a strong subject line and then a piece after that to either identify with a sense of urgency, a timeline, a exciting piece of news. We want to have that great tagline or slogan. And I know there's probably different ways we can say this, but I'll show you what that is in a moment. Then as we work through, so we've got the title, we've got them engaged in, they're opening your email or your blog post and they want to read it. And they're loving what you're going on about with your slogan or the add-on piece to your title to complement your title or your heading. Now we want to break up that content, because if you've ever read something where it's just read on and on and on, paragraph after paragraph, our minds, our subconscious minds, technically are losing sight of the real idea. The idea is going to slip away for them. So a way to keep your reader engaged and focused is using using subheadings. And so we'll talk about that in a few moments. The next point there is around bullet points and indenting your text. And I'll show you some examples. We do that quite a bit in our blog posts and our social media posts and those kinds of things. Using images, and Penny, I know you'll speak to this quite nicely. Using images, photos, things that catch your reader's eye and draw them in. Because as we know, if there's any photographers on the call today, a picture can tell 1,000 words or say 1,000 words, right? So the things that we could say in a whole paragraph, one image, a really strong, good image can actually speak to and help tell the story. And that can actually draw your reader in, especially if you've got a reader that's very highly visual. And I know I always speak to learning styles and communication styles. And one of the things that most of us have within us is visual. We are visual learners. We're visual beings. We need to see something to believe it, right? So that's part of that whole idea of using images and photos. And then the last point is about having a powerful message to close out you know, great closing remarks, close out your blog post, close out your email or your social media posts, and have a good, strong call to action. Whether it's comment below in a social media post, or, you know, be sure to check out our next webinar coming up in. So if you're writing a newsletter, if you're writing, always have a nice, powerful message at the end, and then close it out with a call to action. So let's dive into this and take a look at some examples. So one of the things that we always want to be doing is, like I said, having that strong, engaging heading. So the title here around business etiquette. Now, if you saw this, how many of you would continue to read business etiquette? What about it? Why would I want to read? Why do I care? Right? So part of the idea of this is what I'm talking about, your slogan or a tagline or an add-on phrase that helps people engage with, what am I going to get from this? Or actually taps into their curiosity. So one of the things that happens psychologically is when we start to read a book. Anybody ever read a book and they've tried to get into it several times and you just can't? It's just not engaging. It's not feeling great around, you know, okay, this isn't really getting my, you know, getting into my head. I'm not really finding this interesting. And part of the reason is that first, you know, paragraph, that first chapter of a book is, and it, you know, everybody's different, right? So that first chapter of a book is going to either grab your attention and hold your attention or not. So likely the same thing happens for most of us when we see a title. If I saw business etiquette on its own, I would think, okay, is it theory? Is it the do's and don'ts? What am I going to learn? So by adding, it's the little things that leave a big impression. It's piquing our curiosity. It's telling us the story that, oh, I could learn something about leaving a great impression or making a big impression. I think I'd like to learn more. And that's what we want to do. We want to be tapping into that curiosity for our reader. We want to be letting them know that there is a bit of a journey here that we're going to take you on, and we're going to give you some, either some tips or some best practices that are going to help you in your business and have stronger etiquette or enhance your etiquette, or maybe just confirm that you're doing all the right things. So that's what you want to be doing. So having that is so key. Another one that, just to give another example, if you had a blog post around marketing strategies, or we have a stager on we have a couple stagers on the call here. So marketing strategies, the tagline or slogan could be 5 best practices for posting on social media. And all of a sudden, I know I'm going to learn 5 best practices. Well, that sounds pretty awesome. I think I'm going to continue to read, because they will read the heading and they will not scan until they're happy and satisfied that they're going to get something from it. That's just how our minds work. Staging your home. If we saw a blog post that said staging your home, we might be, well, you know, that's great and all. I'm not really ready to do that, or I'm not selling my home. But if we said 3 steps to creating a dream living room, well, now you've actually opened the door to more audience, for one, and we've actually tapped into curiosity. Well, I want a dream living room. What are the 3 steps? There's only 3 steps. That sounds pretty awesome. Right? So you can see how your reader can get more focused and engaged. So the key is always, always to tap into your reader's curiosity, give them something, you know, delicious, you know, something to go after, because we all are hungry for information, but it has to resonate. It has to click for us. And again, you're not going to click for every reader. So let's keep that in mind as well. Today's tips and best practices, it's going to resonate differently. Again, given your style, given who you are as a business owner or a company, your core values play a role in whether somebody wants to work with you. There's so many other things, but from a readership, a straight readership, or if you're engaging with your clients through email or newsletter, they've already come to you and they're doing work with you. Now it's about keeping them engaged and getting the stuff you need to get the job done, or getting them to register for something. If you're sending a newsletter and you're saying, sign up for this next webinar. Those are the kinds of things that we want in readership, is tapping into their curiosity and getting them to take the next step. So let's move into now, moving from captivating your audience and keeping things clear and succinct in the title to actually tap into and engage your reader. So let's look at taking your reader on a journey. And this is really powerful. And you'll notice, you know, on blog posts, some people are readers. And I know even my business partner, Penny, and I, we joke about the fact that I'm very visual. I'm very auditory. So I'm auditory digital is sort of my style in learning and processing information. And it's very interesting because my business partner, Penny, and she'll speak to this later on, I'm sure, is very, very much about visual and reading context, and she can read books in days, right? In a couple days. And that's just different styles. So if you are someone who likes to read and read blog posts, there's still an element of, you need to keep me engaged. You need to keep me interested. So one of the things that's important is to chunk out your text. So you'll notice here, and you don't necessarily need to see the words, just looking at the style and how we go about this. You'll notice that, you know, first of all, that headline in that first is very strong and it might draw your reader in. Next, we go to the body of the message. So a great opening paragraph to say, this is what we're going to talk about. This is why. This is how powerful it can be to learn this, this, and this. And now we're going to take you on this journey. So doing something like, if you can see here, asking a question. How do we do that? Well, the best way is to ensure we stay at top of mind as a business in a positive, supportive, and inspiring way. So that takes you on, okay, well, I want to learn more about that. So it's just that question, and then it's sort of an answer, but if you read further, you'll get to learn about these things. How do we post in a supportive, inspiring, and positive way? So the next paragraph here is around, there are ways to approach promotional. So see how there's just this progression that's happening. You're drawing them in to say, so there are many ways to approach. So you're actually giving people the idea that there's lots of options out there. This doesn't have to be the only way. But in essence, you're drawing them in to say, here's our thoughts on it. So again, blog posts are all about your thoughts. You're drawing on your own knowledge and experience and best practices, things that have worked for you. And then you go into where we've got our bullet points, but we've done it in a subheadings. And this is what I talk about. The subheadings are so key. And this is a way to chunk and block your information using strong subheadings. And again, this can apply in emails, newsletters. So we'll show you some more examples later, and blog posts, and even social media posts. You can do this a little bit if your social media post is going to be a little longer. So we'll talk about that later. But you can see by putting the heading or the subheading as sort of a bullet point, but here's what we're going to capture here. And I encourage you to do this in your writing, because the idea here is that you've not only blocked out the information. So, oh, interesting, demonstrate your company's core values. Well, I'd like to know more about that. You've put a subheading here, and then this block of text, this short 4 to 5 sentences in this paragraph are only going to be focused on that main idea of demonstrating your company's core values. So do you see where we're heading here? The next one, time to step up your online presence. Again, chunking and blocking your information, then articulating to that key point. That subheading is going to kick off that information so that your reader can stay focused on, oh, okay, time to step up my online presence. Well, what do they have to say about that? So these 4 to 5 sentences, and I encourage you to keep your paragraphs, your blocks of information and text to 4 to 5 sentences, 5 to 6 max, because our readers can only absorb so much. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but also minimize the fluff words. So we'll get into that a little bit further later. But, you know, keep your sentences very succinct and clear and crisp. So you can see how the information is chunked and blocked. It's very easy to digest and read. And if you needed to add a piece like this piece down here, there are very specific strategies and steps that alludes to, so come with me here on this journey now and learn more about this specific thing, right? So you're guiding your reader through a process, a structure, a format, steps, ways in which to do something in a very specific way. And it's very, very powerful for your reader. All right, just gonna check in. Okay, doing good. So let's take this a little bit deeper. And like I said, we want to keep the information succinct and clear. So you probably have heard the KISS method, the keep it simple method. It's very, very powerful. Keep it simple and clear. So let's dive a little bit deeper into another example here. So this was one of our blog posts. We typically write a blog post a month on average. And so we've honed, our style over the time as well. We've actually taken feedback. Some of these we can transcribe into an auditory. We had someone that was struggling with, reading text on a website. And so those are the kinds of things you can do too. And that's just another little tip, is you can take your blog post and you can actually transcribe it into a mini podcast or an auditory a way of learning or listening to your blog post. So that's another aside. So here is an example of one of our newsletters. And, I put the heading here, is your newsletter newsworthy? And one of the things that I'm very fortunate is I work with Penny, who is not just a great designer and marketing guru, and creative advertising, but she actually worked in a newspaper, local newspaper here in town at the Very Advanced for 15 years. So I'm very fortunate to actually have that insight and that knowledge. And so we actually do our newsletter in the form of sort of a newspaper or an article looking format. So maybe I can get Penny to elaborate in a few moments. I'm going to pull our newsletter up. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment. And I'm going to pull our newsletter up so you can actually physically see. I hope I've still got it here. Bear with me. Bear with me. Oh, maybe I don't. Let me see. Yes, I do. There we go. I'm just going to share that if I can. Come on. I just want to share this and walk you through our actual newsletter. Can everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So this is our actual newsletter, one of our newsletters. And so what I want to do, and Penny, just give me a wave if I'm scrolling too quickly. But this comes into our newsletter audience as looking just like this. So it's kind of cool, right? So you've got sort of a headline, and it's very, very interesting because it's got some visuals, it's got different colors, we've got our logo at the top. And this is just an example of what you can do with your newsletter in MailChimp. We use simple MailChimp, nothing too fancy, but you can put images. You can actually set it up as sort of a newsletter, a newspaper looking format, because then it draws your reader and your eyes get to go this way and that way. And I know Penny would say it's very, very engaging when you can move your reader's eyes from one side to another. So what do I want to learn first? So again, we were announcing about our upcoming webinars during COVID, that we were running some free webinars. And then we went into some marketing tips. So one of the things that you want to do in your newsletter is give lots of great information, because not all your readers want to learn about you and your services. Sometimes they want to learn some great tips, some best practices. So mix up your newsletter You don't have to necessarily use this format, but it is a nice engaging format. We've had compliments on our newsletters in the past. And it's a way to sort of, and see how we've blocked and chunked the information again. So we give the quick tip, right? Then we give, we give the quick overview, then we give a tip, right? Quick hit, and then an action, a call to action. Follow us on social media to learn more tips. Ask questions. We appreciate your ongoing support. So these are the kinds of things that you can do in your newsletter. Then we went on to say, here are some of the webinars coming up. And notice how subheading is bolded. So using bold print, not capitals or red underline, right? Because we know that can feel like shouting, but using crisp text and bold print. I usually suggest, I believe this is Arial, something that's very crisp. It doesn't have too many, what do we call it? Sans serif and serif. And there's some fonts that actually have too many tails and, is it ascenders and descenders? Am I saying the right thing, Penny? All right, cool. I'm learning. So these kinds of things can get in the way of your message being clear and crisp. So if you find a text or a font that really works, this is really crisp and clear. And when you bold it, it's still very crisp and clear. And that's what you want. So these are the kinds of things that you can do in your newsletter. So this is just giving you examples, trying to give you some different examples. Give them a way back to your website, partway through. Don't let them get to the end of remember, our readers may not scroll all the way down. They may get caught up in now they're off registering for your webinar and you've lost them. So take them to your website, get them opening different pages, because that's going to keep them engaged, keep them with you, right? So this is what we do. We have a button for our website. Go check us out over here. You can register here for this Zoom, right? So these are the ways that we can keep our reader engaged. Give them something to sign up for, or at least check out on your website. Give them some great information about it. Again, if you're like me, I'm a scanner. I don't necessarily read every word until I'm interested. Then I'll go back, and if I see something as I'm scanning, I will go back and I will read and go through the text. Penny is the opposite. She is great. She reads every word and wants to learn and get very clear on the entire message. For me, I'm auditory. So for me, reading is a challenge and keeping me engaged. So until I find something that really picks up my interest, then I will go back and read it. But it's very interesting. So notice you're going to have different reading styles, different communication styles, learning styles that are reading your information. So keeping them engaged is really key. So this is just, again, an example of a newsletter that you can add different elements, add buttons. If we wanted to, often in our newsletters, we mix it up quite a bit. In this segment here, our Cheetah Muse, we may check out our latest blog post on, and we'll put a link that goes to our blog on our website. So that's another way to engage them back to your website, because right now they're just in their own email. They're getting information from you. Do they want to stay engaged with you? Is it reader focused? Are they getting any great information? So tell them about what you're doing, what's coming up, but give them something like a marketing tip. If you're a stager, I see Bonnie here. If you're a stager, give them a staging tip, something quick, something easy for them to digest, something they can use even if they're not selling their home, because then you're going to be top of mind. If you're a practitioner, I know we have a few counselors and therapists on the call here today. If you're in that sort of wellness, give them a tip on wellness. How can they, are you drinking lots of water, especially when you're sitting a lot or on lots of Zoom calls? Are you giving your eyes a break? Something like that. And those are great little reminders and tips, and it will help keep you top of mind because you gave them something helpful. All right, so I'm going to move back. But if there's any questions, again, drop your questions and comments into the chat box there. I clearly can't multitask. I'm just trying to pick up my PowerPoint again. Let me go back here. So again, we'd love to have your questions, comments. please throw those in the chat box if you do have some questions. All right, so I'm going to actually turn this over to my lovely business partner, Penny. Penny, are you cool to talk about a little bit more about social media?
Absolutely. All right. I think with a lot of the things that you've already discussed, Heather, I think there are a lot of those points about writing. I think we can take a lot of them to social media. Although, because social media is more of a quick type of communication, there's a bit of differences, I think, just a few differences. So we don't want to write on and on with our social media posts. I know I do see, I don't know, I see some that are quite lengthy, and I don't know about all of you, but I know personally myself, I don't have the attention span to read through really, really long social media posts. So the guideline, they say, is 80 to 120 words as just to maintain your viewers' attention and keep their attention there. And the other points about understanding your audience and speaking to them in their in language that they're going to understand, almost as if they're a child, so that they clearly understand what you're talking about, rather than using these big words that nobody understands or may or may not understand. That's always a good idea as well. And you want it to resonate with them. So doing your research, making sure that you know the things that they like and dislike, things that they want to see, the types of stuff that interests them. If you have that kind of information, that'll help you informing your social media posts. And another point being about keeping it short and simple. So just like this one that Heather has up here that's been shared, it's nice and short and simple, right to the point, nice and easy to read, using the headers and bullets and lists like with the other business writing. That's really effective in social media as well. One of the differences is keeping the paragraphs though a bit shorter, so more of like the 2 to 3 sentences. And I find even more so on Instagram, I separate it even more. I give it more air. I'm not really sure why I do that, what the reasoning behind that is, but everybody's always on their phone with Instagram, whereas Facebook, you're sometimes having people viewing on desktop and not on their phone. And I find, on a phone, it's just a bit more challenging. So separating it up a bit more on Instagram is always a great idea. And the whole image thing. So making sure that you're adding an image, and if you're not adding an image, maybe you're adding a graphic. So some sort of GIF or a boomerang, something with some sort of movement, maybe you're sharing a video. Those help tell the story more. You're going to have your content that, the people that do like to read will read it. But if the image or graphic or video that you're using with that content, if it will help tell more of the story that will draw those people in that maybe aren't likely to read it. Maybe it will help them be interested to read it more, or maybe they'll just watch the video and that'll be it and that'll be enough. And it also, like videos especially, you're going to connect at a deeper level with your audience, which of course we all want to do. Those of us that are business, we really want to connect with our audience. We really want them to engage with us, and using video is definitely one of the ways to get there. With your images and graphics, make sure that you're optimizing them for the specific social media platform that you're on. Any type of, you can do a quick search for social media, what the recommended sizes are. It's just that Instagram is a bit different than Facebook. So you want to make sure that when those images are appearing in the feeds that, the side's not cut off, or your top of your head isn't cut off, or whatever the issue may be. You want to make sure that you're putting them up there in the proper way, so that it looks good and professional. And then the call to action, just like we have here, we're telling people to sign up. We've made it nice and simple. There's the link below. So whether it's, you can do the, like or share or comment our page or the post. You ask them a question, maybe, answer below to get that engagement. You might want to send them to your blog or direct them to a landing page that you've created for a funnel, maybe direct them to your website, subscribe to your newsletter like this one, ask them to follow you on your other social media platforms, making sure that there's some sort of action. Tell them what you want them to do at the end of the post that you're doing. I think that's all I had for that. Do you want me to go into the whole emojis part of thing too, Heather?
Yes,
yeah.
please. Just
Okay.
speak to the emoji piece. I know you had some great information on that. So.
Yeah, the emoji, I knew emojis were super important, but after doing some research, I found that they're even more important than what I realized. And thankfully, Heather found a post to share that I had quite a few emojis in it, so that's cool. The emojis help make the content more relatable. So again, that whole connection, we want people to connect to us and we want us to seem relatable and that people feel like they get us or that we're going to get them, especially, you know, for depending on what your business is, but us as a marketing agency, we really want people to feel like they're going to feel connected to us when they work with us. And I'm sure that goes for a lot of you as well. You want that connection. So that's really an important piece. And 92% of internet users use emojis. 92%. I just thought that statistic was crazy. So a lot of people are using emojis in their social media. And depending on what your target market is, 25 to 29-year-olds are the ones that use it the most. So if they happen to be your target, then you must be using them. Start using them now. And the other thing that I thought was really cool about emojis is that they're universal, and it totally makes sense. Everybody gets an emoji. You don't have to worry about language barriers or anything, right? A thumbs up is a thumbs up, whether you're here or if you're in, you know, Africa, Australia, anywhere around the world, emojis mean the same thing to everybody. They also engage your fans more. You'll have specifically on Instagram, they say that there's a 40% increase in engagement by using emojis. And I think too, it also breaks up that content as well. It doesn't make it feel so heavy. It helps lighten it up, and it creates that personality with that connection with you. Also too, I thought, you know, this is a little bit away from social media, but it was also said that there was increased engagement on the open rate of your emails if there was a emoji in your subject line. Increased open rate of 56%. Just by putting an emoji in your subject line on your email that you're sending out, whether it's newsletter or, well, I would think newsletter would be the main one, but I guess you could even do it in like emails back and forth with clients, but I'm sure the newsletter is probably the piece that you would want to focus on. And the only advice that I saw online was about testing it, because obviously not all emojis appear the same on every platform. I know specifically the little calendar emoji that's showing up here. If you share it on Instagram, it'll show a different date in the calendar. And then if you show it on Facebook, it'll be a different date. So they're similar, but just not quite the same. So testing that out ahead of time. Yeah, and the last thing was still just the feeling connected, which I've already talked about, and that's the whole psychology behind it. Some people even feel more easier to express their emotions using emojis, and I noticed that in social media. Sometimes people will say, even especially now with everything that's going on with COVID, you know, how are you feeling? And they'll say, here, this color of heart means this, and that color of heart means that, or, you know, the angry face, and that's what this means, so that people don't actually have to write it out there how they're feeling. They can just drop a little emoji into the comments, and it's more comfortable, I think, for people. So even using that as a way to engage your audience on social media, you know, here are my emojis, tell me how you're feeling, or tell me what you want, and kind of just explaining which each of them are, to get that kind of interaction and connection with your viewers and your audience.
That's awesome, Penny. Thank you so much. I knew you'd have some great stuff to share, and you don't always get to say a whole lot. So I'm so glad that you could share about the social media. And of course, we just showed one platform. We're a big Instagram, fans. And of course, we use LinkedIn as well. We always recommend businesses should be on LinkedIn. So this was just one example, but thank you so much, Penny. That's brilliant. I thought I'd pull up our actual post because there is an image and there's actually the sign up page linked that Penny always includes some sort of image, video, or something to, again, engage. And it also is great for coming up in your feed as well. Facebook likes images and videos and things to click on. So thank you so much, Penny. And I think you probably have a few questions to answer. Looks like the chat box is filling up, so that's exciting. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to flip back to, I just wanted to give a sort of a snapshot of what Penny was speaking to, and that, you know, here's our sign up sheet here. So you can actually embed the link to your pop-up on your, we have a pop-up newsletter on our website. So if you have that, it's kind of a fun way to get them on your website, and that link takes them right to that. And we didn't even get into hashtags because that's a whole other ball of wax, but Penny's great at, you know, the hashtag piece. Maybe we'll do a whole video on that sometime. that gets into a whole different ball game. So let's go back and take us to the last bit of our, last bit of our webinar here. And thank you for your questions. I see there's lots of questions coming up, so please continue to ask questions or share comments. And we'll be just a few more minutes here as we just go into email. And I'd like to sort of talk about email because we do, how many of you do email all day, every day? I know we get probably 20 or 30 emails at least in our inbox, even during this time. And especially during this time, we want to be very clear and succinct about what we're needing if we're working on projects with a client. So this is an example of, it's an example of something we would say. It's not an actual client because for confidentiality reasons. But this is an email to Susan Smith, let's say. And so one of the things that, you know, again, if you're wanting to engage your reader, if you're wanting to keep things clear and succinct, when we get an email like this, or if we were to send something like this out, what do we notice about our subject line, right? There's very little in the subject line to tell us what is going on or tell your client, right? We're writing out to the client. There's very little to tell them about what and when and how and where they need to be. So our subject line, again, is very, very key. And I love that there's an emoji comment about subject lines for email. I think that's hilarious. So we'll have to talk about that. I didn't put any emojis in here, but one of the things that I am very, very passionate about is having a strong subject line, because I know I'm one of those people, and 99% of people will read the subject line, which is great. If your subject line tells the story, ask them, you know, what you need, tells them what they need to do. So your subject line needs to have more than just 2 words in it. So we'll talk about that in the next reveal here of our next email. So yes, nice salutation, very strong. We get into, I don't know, I'm a how are you kind of person, hope your week's going well. So this is something I would actually write to a client or in an email to somebody, anybody that I'm responding to or sending a message out to. But then all of a sudden it gets into this, remember we talked about how our eye travels. I'm looking to see what I need. So if my client, if Susan gets this, she's got to read left to right, which is the way we read, but she's got to read very, very particularly. Okay, so we're very excited. Okay, that's, yep, new website, great, it's been fun. Okay, do you see how your reader can get lost and not know, there's no direction, there's no specific pieces. So if Susan is like me and she's scanning to see what she needs to do, it's going to take her 10 times longer to find out what she needs to do next. So we've gone through, okay, there's final items. I'm actually looking at certain things in this to see what I need to do. Do you see how convoluted this can be? And for your client, it can get very distracting, and likely, you know what's going to happen to this? All right, I'm going to read that later. That email is going to go There's no timeline. There's no call to action. There's nothing to draw me in except, oh, there's a fabulous day and it's from Heather. So Susan needs a little bit more. So this is very cluttered. There's no direction. There's no specific call to action. This email may go back into the inbox as an unread. So how do we engage our reader, particularly in email? And again, this is just a very short and sweet email as an example, but because of our time and we just want to give you some information. Here's a sort of a refined version of what I would actually write. And, you know, a couple of you on the call have received emails from me. And one of the things that I really love about effective business writing, and I've been teaching it, but I also did a lot of learning and research over the last 10, 15 years about this, is anybody can do this. So these are very simple but powerful things that you can do to transform your email and get your reader to open it, read it, and take action. So here we go. Big reveal, website review this Friday at 3. All right, Susan now knows there's a big reveal. She knows what's happening. She knows when it's happening. She knows why it's happening, and she knows where to be, right? So the only thing that's missing here is the Zoom, but we would get the information back from her and then I would send her a Zoom, especially right now. We do everything, all our walkthroughs and our reveals are done over Zoom right now, especially. So that detail would actually get put into her calendar and so on and so forth. But for right now, I want Susan to know what's happening. We're ready to go, ready for the big reveal. And so I'm going to have that nice salutation, strong subject line. I may have even put an action required at the end here in a bracket, or please read and take action as a piece of, as an add-on to the subject line. I didn't in this one, but I may do that. But again, this is enough to get her to open it because she is probably very excited about her new website. Actually, we're just launching one this week as well. So that is, you know, we have a client that's going through this right now. We are very excited about your new website. So we're talking about the excitement. It's been a blast. We've gone through, so she can easily see there's a few final items that we need to finalize the project. Oh, okay. And again, notice I've put big reveal with you this Friday at 3. Reiterate the timeline, what's happening and when. Reiterate it in your body of your message, always. So you take your subject line and you reinsert it into the base or the body of your message. Now look, we've got the items bulleted. Before they were in that big long email that we had. Now they're bulleted. She knows exactly what items. And this is key. When we get bullet points or we have indented text, our mind visually and subconsciously automatically grabs that information. And if you put the right subtext here as we need these items, your subconscious mind will actually see this visually. And we're not all 100% visual, but most of us have a visual component in our learning, our communication style. And she will remember she needs to get a bio, a headshot, images, and 3 blog posts to us before Friday or before Wednesday. So give bullet points of what you're looking for very clearly and crisply here in the email. And then please provide, give an action, a call to action. Please provide the following items by end of day this Wednesday. We need this to get to our web developer to add into the website so that we're ready to go and everything's looking good. We've tested everything, buttons all work, everything's looking pretty, photos are optimized, whatever we need to do before that Friday reveal. And then call us, always, always call us if you have questions or need for further clarification. This is actually some of the things that I see are missing in an email. And subconsciously, if somebody doesn't get told that they can call you or reach out to you, they may not. So they may either hem and haw about the email, they may need clarification. Always, always, if you remember and you think they may need to ask questions, give them that. Call us if you need to ask any questions. I might even say call or email if you have questions. So this is a very clear, specific way to not only engage your reader, get them to do what you need them to do, give them timelines. So again, we reiterated the subject line here in the body. We gave bullet points of the 3 items that we need, or the 3 specifics that we need to finalize. And then we gave them a timeline. This is crucial. Give them a call to action, give them direction, especially if it's a client, because you want that project to be successful. You want to meet your deadline. And then of course your closing remarks. So this is just examples of some of the writing, the business writing that, that we come across very often. We often get asked questions and asked for help on newsletters, writing newsletters, drafting social media posts, that kind of thing. So what I'd like to do is now, and we've got some time, this is great, we got a few minutes anyway. I'd love to turn it over to Penny to put out some questions if there's questions, and we will, there we go. We will turn it over to you, Penny, for questions, Q&A, comments.
Yeah, I started answering the questions on the chat, but I can cover some of them as well so that it's on the recording. Okay. And one I didn't answer to Julie about the call to action on every single post for social media. I think that's safe to do, even if it's just, connect with us, reach out if you have any questions. I think even a call to action like that on every, I think you're still safe to put a call to action on every post. That's that. And then I shared also about Linktree, which I think is a really cool tool, because Aisha, sorry if I said your name wrong, she asked about including links on the Instagram post. So unless we have over 10,000 followers, which would be fantastic, working towards it very slowly, then you can't actually use links. Well, you can use links in your content, but they're not clickable. So the solution around that is using Linktree. So Linktree is a site that you can sign up for. I haven't actually done it for us, but it is on my to-do list. And it allows you to have multiple links on your bio. So you can still say link in bio on like when you want to share a link, rather than actually having it in the content of your social media account. Specifically this being for Instagram. You can say link in bio, and then Linktree allows you to have multiple links. I'm not sure if there's a limit to the amount of links that you can have in your Linktree, but I've seen some that have like 5 or 6, which is really, really nice to have.
There's no limit to Linktree.
There isn't? Okay, perfect.
No.
Wonderful. Thank you. Sharing. And then Carol was asking about emojis and speaking to, if they speak more to a younger age group, and I'm not sure your thought on that, Heather, but I know both of us are, in our 40s, and I love
emojis.
I love emojis. I love emojis. I love the hugging emoji and the love emoji. I don't know. It's fun. And I think, I don't know. I think we're all trying to add a little bit more fun into our lives. There's so many serious things always going on in the world, let alone all the craziness that's going on now, and just adding a bit more fun. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And if you feel like your business and what you do, if you feel like that's not how you connect to people and that's not going to connect to them, then don't use them. But if you find that is how you can connect with them, do some test posts, do one without the emojis, do one with the emojis, go into your analytics, see the kind of reach you got, check the post, see the comments, the likes, what kind of engagement did you get on each one, compare them and see which one had more engagement. I gather from what I read online, like even if you're a lawyer or in a more serious business, it's okay to use some emojis. You just maybe you're going to gravitate towards more of the little calendar ones or little notebook ones, rather than like angry faces or ones that have more emotion attached to it.
Absolutely. I think, well, my dad uses emojis and he's 71.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's actually an encyclopedia for emojis. So I shared that in the
that's cool
for everybody to use. Yeah, and it's all categorized, so you can go into your category and find the right emoji or the one that you feel like you want to use, and add that in there. You could just copy it and paste it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Very cool. So we are just at 1 o'clock now, which is great. And really want to thank everybody for being here. We will stay on the call for a few more minutes. We'll stop the recording. Thank you so much to the Barrie Chamber as well for, supporting us and sharing about this event. And we will continue as best we can. Some weeks are really crazy, so we have a lot of projects on the go, but we will continue to share these usually Fridays at noon, but certainly some weeks we do different days to mix it up for our I'm just going to stop the recording. There we go.